have full stomachs. That lunch was delicious. Thank you. And I don't know about you. Yes, thank you. I love a meal that I don't have to cook. That's the best blessing of it all. And it tastes good on top of it, even better. It was a privilege to get to walk around to your groups and listen in on what you were talking about, and hope that it was a good opportunity to talk. One group only got through 2 questions. We're good at talking, aren't we? That's awesome, awesome. Our group time is so important because today isn't about just getting some good information. It's about connecting with each other and finding that support with each other, because the truth is, ladies, we can't get through this on our own. We need each other. And we need each other as we go through these ups and downs of life. And so thank you for being willing to engage. Thank you for being willing to share and to open up and to connect with some other women. Because isn't it amazing what we've gone through? That's one of the things, listening to the stories and the heartache and the joy and the sadness and all of the things that you've gone through. Amazing. You're truly amazing people. So I'm curious what you thought about the gap. As you started journaling about it, as you started sharing in your groups, I'm curious what you thought. Was it as big and wide as you thought? Was it as deep as you thought? Was it a little more shallow? Not so hard? Or as you really looked at it, was it, well, I've been focusing over here, but really where I've been stuck is over here. On this part, on this thing. Fascinating to start thinking about. One of the things I enjoyed listening to is going, I didn't realize I was in a gap, but I am. I wish it was the store, but no, it's the gap of life, right? So we will be sure to end on time because I honor your time with us. And it's a privilege to get to speak for you. You got to forgive me because remember that gap in my memory? So I do a lot of speaking and I talk a lot about this story. And I forgot to tell you the details. A couple of you came up to me and said, so did your sister live? And I'm like, oh yeah, minor detail, right? So yes, my sister lived. She was in the hospital for 4 months. She had 65% of her body was burned. They amputated her thumb and her ear. She has 95% of her body is scarred due to all the harvesting of skin that they had to do to cover her burns. They actually took her, not her big toe, but the next one over and put that on as her thumb. And so it was a long, long process, many 25 operations. And her boyfriend did end up dying 10 days later after the fire, which was a blessing. It was better that he went to be with the Lord than to live through his injuries. And my friend ended up, Eric was his name, ended up in the hospital for a couple of months and then got to go home. So forgive me for missing that minor but big detail of the story. And really it was just a teaser to get you to come back for the afternoon so that you could find out that information. Okay, and this morning I mentioned the gap is inevitable. The length of stay is optional. And lots of things throw us into the gap, right? I don't know about you, it can be a simple thing from something that was said. So I've been married for 20 years now, love him to death most days. And we have those moments, right? You love him, but you can still kind of, there's a book out called God, Can I Kill Him and Say That It Was an Accident? Or you can love him on some of those days. But so my husband, who I love to death, has this knack for throwing me into the gap, especially in the beginning of our marriage. As we had been married a week, and I'm making dinner, and he comes up behind me, and I thought he was going to put his arms around me and tell me how much he loves me and how thankful he is I'm making dinner. No, he says, honey, what are you making? I said, stroganoff. And he goes, huh, that's not the way my mom makes it. Let me tell you, my reaction wasn't the best. I turned around and said, well, then you can go live with your mother and see how that sex is. Good, huh? Right? Christian attitude. I'm sure Jesus would have been right there with me. But, you know, you're newly married, but it was a new one for me. The other classic that my husband did, love him to death, where we worked, we used to live in Southern California in Pasadena, and where he worked, at the church he was at, there was a dry cleaner right next to it. I said, oh, honey, could you please bring these clothes to the dry cleaners and these clothes to the Goodwill, please, that would be helpful, because the church I worked at was farther away and it was not convenient to go make that truck. Well, you guessed it. He got the clothes at the wrong place. I kept asking him, are you going to get the dry cleaning? Are you going to get the dry cleaning? Oh, yes, I am. Only to find out he didn't, because there was no dry cleaning to pick up. He just delivered them all to the Goodwill. Yes, we love him, and it's amazing I'm not strangled him, right? My son, who I love, who is here, so sorry, honey, that you get to hear this. I warned him I was going to tell a story on him. When he was little this summer, he just passed me up in height. I'm so sad. I'm still waiting for him to pass me up in the weight thing. We're hoping, but he's got a couple more pounds. But when he was just thigh high, he came up behind me in his sweet, blonde, darling little face. And he patted me on the buns and said, Mom, you've got little buns. They just look big. Of course, I wanted to say back to him, well, you know what? I can crush you with one of these buns. You better watch it, boy. His other classic line that only a boy could say, he was, back when he was little and looking at that thigh high, he goes, Mom, what are those marks on your skin? I said, well, those are what we call stretch marks. They're lovely, aren't they? You gave them to me, dear precious soul. And he goes, man, those aren't pretty. Nobody should see those. I was like, you little schmuck. You get out of my bathroom. You're in my bathroom. What do you mean? You shouldn't have to see them because you should be in your room, not in mine, right? Gotta love them. That honesty, that sweetness that just pours out of them. When my husband and I were 6 months married, he was a youth pastor at a church in Seattle, Washington. And we're sitting in church, and my sister-in-law, who's about 4 years younger than us, she was in college, and she had come home to visit. And after church, this lady comes up to me. I'm sure she meant well. But she says, it's so good to see Stacy. She is just beautiful. She is stunning. She is gorgeous. You really look plain when you sit next to her. I'm like, okay, am I supposed to say thank you or what, So the very next Sunday, we're sitting in church, and we're like second row right here, because, we're good people sitting in the front row. And my mother-in-law plays the piano, and she's up there playing the piano. My husband plays the drums, and he's doing the drums. And my father-in-law and my sister-in-law sing beautifully, and they were singing a song. Left me sitting in the row all by myself. So after the service, this lady comes up to me and says, everybody in the Fowler family has a talent. Do you have any talents? I said, nope. I just sit here and look plain. What do you say, right? Isn't it interesting how some of the most lovely people can say some of the most hurtful things in our life? And how easily it is to be thrown into the gap. Those are minor things that I can laugh about them now, but they're not always easy, are they? The things that we've been told from childhood on up can be devastating. And it's the things that were said to us often that are the hardest to let go of. Kelly Clarkson had it right in her song. What doesn't kills us makes us stronger. I believe it. Someone I was just talking to said that. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Of course, I have to admit I've thought about killing some people once in a while, but I have refrained from doing that. This morning we talked about what robs us of our hope, and this afternoon is going to be what restores our hope. We're in the gap. Now, how do we get back out of it? Because that really is what this is about. The gap isn't a terrible thing in and of itself. It's only terrible if we stay stuck there and believe that's what life is about. But there's so much learning. There's so much growth that happens during that time. I love this song, The Blessing. And I have to admit, my husband is the one that heard it first. And he's like, you got to hear the song. You got to hear the song. And so I was listening to it, and I went and printed out the words because I like making sure I understood what they always are saying. And he goes, so what do you think? And I'm like, that's terrible. No, I don't want it to be in my tears. That could be a blessing. I want my prosperity. And I want my family to have comfort. And I don't want there to be suffering, right? And I was laughing at myself going, and yet, it's so true. And I put the words in your notebook today so that you could have them. So that at times, when you're at your low spots, when you're struggling, you can pull this out and have that reminder that maybe sometimes it is in our tears. That's a blessing in disguise. I would have sang it for you, but I'm not talented. And I didn't want you to lose your lunch over having to hear me sing. And that's why I was like afraid to turn my mic on. I made him promise me the mic would not be on because I am horrible. I am horrible. Do you ever have a gift that you wish you had? I wish I could have played the piano and sang. I took lessons for years. You would never know it. I am so bad at singing. My own children, who I love dearly. I had this little goodnight song I sang to them. You know, good night, angels watching over you. Yeah, my own daughter put her little finger up and said, Mama, no more singing. No more singing. I'm like, okay, that's bad. So thank you for singing it for me and making it so beautiful because it has wonderful, wonderful words. Because you see, ladies, this is what it's about. It's not, sometimes as I've worked with people, they feel like, well, I need to just stop. Well, I just need to change. The truth is, I don't know about you, but it doesn't always work that way, right? It's about taking where I'm at right now and making a shift. And then making a shift. And you keep shifting until you get to the place that you're in alignment with what you believe, with the promises that God's given us, and how we're living our life. That's the difference. And so hear me. I pray today as you walk out that there's going to be a shift that you feel like, that's the shift I need to make in my thinking, in the way I'm being, in what I'm doing. Does that make sense? So often it's like, no, I need to stop all negative thoughts. I need to stop beating myself up in my head. I need to stop whatever it is. It's like asking me to stop eating chocolate. It's not going to happen. Right? And so then I have one more thing to beat myself up over because I'm still eating my chocolate. So that's all I'm asking you is making that shift. Could our tears actually be a blessing in disguise? Simply put, what restores hope is living in joy and peace. When you are not there, you know you're in the gap. Again, holding in the place, it's not that we're always going to be happy about the things that are happening in our life, for sure. But it's that we find that place that, again. I love the word enthusiasm. Did you know that the Greek word, this is what I paid a lot of money for and to get my theology degree, enthusiasm and get my Greek, really means God within us. So if God is within us, what can be against us? If God is in us, then what do we have to be afraid of? This may sound crazy, and I know, but I want you to make a choice. I want you to make a shift to start enjoying your life right now. I didn't say love it. I didn't say love every part of it. Enjoy a little piece of it. Start enjoying your life, because if you are waiting for something to change, if you've told yourself that, well, when this happens, I'll be happy, I'll be okay, right? When we make that much money, when we get out of debt, when the kids are out of the house, when I lose that 15 pounds, what's the blank that you would fill in? It doesn't work that way. Because the truth is, even when you get to that point, the next thing happens. Okay, well, when I can retire, and when I have grandbabies, or when, right? Have you noticed that? It's always the next thing. I remember thinking when my kids were little, okay, when they're out of diapers, we can, have extra money. No. Now they're in school. Now they grow out of their clothes faster. Now there's just something else, right? So embracing whatever it is right now. Because that's what it's about. It's having a trust in a God who's big enough, who says, no matter what happens in our life, He's with us. And it's making that shift to be able to say, you know what? I can live in confidence. I can be okay because I know who has me. Right? It's so easy to worry about, okay, well, what if something happens to my kids? Or, well, what if something happens to yeah, it might happen. But what I know and I can believe and trust within myself is that God's within me and I'm going to be okay. because I have that strength. What restores hope is looking at ourselves like we look at our children. You realize that's exactly how God looks at us. I'm so grateful for being a parent because it taught me a whole new level of being a Christian. Because as I look at their precious little faces, and I look and I watch them grow and develop, I have so much love for them. So much love. Even in those moments when they drive me crazy, and you would think, what were we thinking, right? You love them to death. I would die for them in a heartbeat. I would do anything for them. And yet, as a mom, I can't protect them from everything. And the truth is, I don't want to. Because if I tried to protect them, I would have to make their world so small that I would have to hover over them. It wouldn't be a relationship that they would have with me. I would drive them crazy if I don't already. Right? Our Heavenly Father, I watch my children, and I want nothing but the best for them. I love watching them grow and develop and become the people that they were created to be. And I hate when I see them hurt, and I see them make their mistakes. But you know what? I don't judge them. I don't get mad and like, oh, you little brats. Okay, maybe moments when they don't pick up their shoes like they know they're supposed to. But I want the best for them. I love them. I hurt with them when they hurt. I'm an imperfect mom with an imperfect love. How is it God would look at us any different? He hurts with us when we hurt. He aches when he sees us make our mistakes. He wishes so much more for us. He loves watching us become the people he created us to be because he loves us. And so often, and I realize that might be a really hard analogy for some of you because of your background and because of the father or mother that you had that left you with so many hurtful messages and scars and pain. But the truth is, that's really what God was about, being our Heavenly Father, was to love us and to bless us and to help us move forward, because that's exactly what we do for our own children. How is it we can give it to them, but we can't accept it from ourselves, from a Heavenly Father? And I think it grieves God's heart that we struggle seeing it like that. I wish I could protect them at times, but I know it wouldn't be for their good. That's why, ladies, at times bad things do happen in our life. It is truly why I wrote the book, How Could This Happen? Because each one of us, if we went around and held them like you, every single one would have something in your life that has been a challenge, has been a source of pain, has been difficult. So ladies, it's time for us to stop being so hard on ourselves. It serves us no good. It does nothing. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't leave the legacy and the role model we dream of for our families, for our friends, for our community, for our church. And we need to stop lying to ourselves that somehow we really aren't good enough, that we have to be perfect, that others have to see it in us before we can see it in ourselves, that other people have it better than we do. As I was listening into the groups, I was amazed at how common of a theme that was in the groups of how hard we are on ourselves. What are we really trying to accomplish by doing that? Does it make us stop eating the cookie? Because we're so hard on us? Does it make us a better mom? Does it make us a better friend? Does it make us a better spouse? It doesn't. So when are we going to decide to stop it? So I encourage you today, because we've got some accountability here now, to, if there's someone you really connected with or you're here with a friend, is to say, all right, you call me on it next time I start doing that. I need to text you, I need to will you hold me accountable to this, because it does not serve us anymore. And ladies, I don't know what we're waiting for, because Victoria's Secret and none of those magazines are ever going to make us feel good. Right? The media is never going to change their message, so we're going to start making this message different. And it starts with us. And it starts now. Do you see how just making that one little shift, even if it's like, oh, dang it, there I went again. Okay, stop. Thank you, Lord, for loving me the way I am. Right there is a huge shift for many of us. Instead of that rabbit trail we can go down, you know how fast those thoughts come, linked one after another. It's amazing. Because do you believe you're here for a reason? I do. I know this because God's had many opportunities to take me out. Beyond my parents wanting to take me out at moments, after the fire, after other things, that has been a challenge. I'm here for a reason. When I was 19 years old, I had just finished my freshman year of college. And my boyfriend and I at the time, which I confess I call my BS days, meaning before Sam, my husband Sam. Before dating guys, before him. And we were driving back from Nampa, Idaho to Eugene, Oregon to visit his family. And it had been a long day, and we thought, you know, you're just invincible, right? You're 19, you're young, you can do this. And we started out on the road. We were following his friend, or his brother and a friend of ours from college. And we got all the way, we were just outside of Bend, Oregon. And we were all so tired. And he was a very nice guy. Marty was his name. Said, you know, why don't you go to sleep? We're about 15 miles outside of town. Just go to sleep, and then we'll stop when we get to Bend. Okay, I'm always happy to go to sleep. To my surprise and shock, he fell asleep too. And when he woke up with this loud scream, we were headed for a telephone pole. He overcorrected to try and get us to miss the pole, but we went into a roll. And when we went to that first roll, we flipped the car, and I landed on my head. He had taken my seatbelt off while I was asleep. He thought he was doing something nice for me because I was uncomfortable, and I had been fidgeting with it. And when I'm asleep, I am out. You can say anything you want to me. You can have whole conversations, and I won't know it. And so we rolled. And we rolled, and we rolled. Somewhere in that process, I ended up getting ejected through where the windshield was. Luckily, I went this way while the car still went that way. And I was spared from being crushed by the truck. It was a little pickup truck that had all of our stuff from college in the back of it. And as I went flying through the air, and I don't know why I remember everything, every detail. I remember flying through the air and hitting the pavement. It landed, and the last thing that hit was my knee, and I broke my kneecap in half. I rolled, and I landed, and I remember waking up. I couldn't see anything, and I didn't hear anything, and I thought, I'm dead. This is it? I'm dead? Like, wow, this is weird. I'm telling you, weird thoughts come to your head when trauma happens. And so I was like, okay, where was I? What was I doing? Marty, I was with Marty. So I started calling his name, and he didn't answer. I thought for sure I had to be dead. So then I was like, okay, Marty. He came up to me. He never said one word to me. He picked me up. He put his hands in my armpits, gross, and cradled my head and drugged me off the road. It just so happened he moved me in the one way you could move someone with a broken neck and be okay. He pulled me up the side. It was just a 2-lane highway, and I was laying across the other lane. It was just outside of town, so there was no houses, and that was before cell phones. So we were kind of stuck. It just so happened his brother and friend saw our headlights swerve in the rearview mirror, so they thought that we had had a flat tire. So they had turned around and come back. As they're driving back, here's Marty dragging me off the road. 3 college guys and an injured girl is not a good combination. They were freaking out. Marty literally was running up and down the road. I killed her, my dad's gonna kill me. I mean, he was just hysterical. And I was like, okay, you gotta do something with him because I'm gonna kill him. Because I need to just stay calm. I need to stay focused. You know what was so funny? One of the thoughts I had as I was laying on the road going, oh no, what brown underwear was I wearing? Seriously, is that not retarded? But it was exactly what I was thinking. So these 3 guys, they literally were standing around me. They were going to pick me up and put me in the back seat of the other car to get me into town. This car out of the blue came up, and they stopped and they said, wait, don't touch her, what happened? And got a little bit of information. The guy goes, I'll run in town and get you an ambulance. Don't move her. Sure enough, the ambulance came back out. It seemed like forever. But a few hours later, I was in the ambulance headed into town. And the ambulance guy started cutting my pants. And I said, what are you doing? And he goes, man, you hurt your knee. I couldn't feel it. And he's like, your knee is really injured and I need to get you ready for when we get to the hospital. I'm like, these are my favorite jeans. And he's like, there's holes all over in them. And I'm like, that just means they're in style, right? The holes all over the jeans. And I'm like, no, you gotta stop. And the guy goes, I'm sorry, I gotta get these pants off. So in all of my 19-year-old muster, because I was a really good Christian girl, I wasn't a bad girl at all, and he kept cutting my pants off. So he kept cutting, and I said, you know, my dad is not gonna like this. Right? I've never been naked in front of a boy before. What was I gonna do? And there was 2 boys sitting in the front of the ambulance. I was like feeling very vulnerable here. And he kept cutting. Ended up getting to the emergency room. It was amazing. The doctors didn't believe I had been ejected through the windshield because of the fact I had no internal bleeding, I had no head trauma, and I just had this broken neck. I was paralyzed on the left side of my body. And it would be, I was in traction for a week waiting until they could have some of the swelling go down enough for me to be able to do surgery. They took bone from my hip, 2 plates, and 4 screws. So I really hope I don't have a screw loose yet. Because they fused my neck together and we waited. It wasn't until quite a few weeks later that I finally started to get feeling back in my arm and my leg. Because of the way my spinal cord had gotten nicked, it was just the left side of my body. They said I would have never survived if those guys would have lifted me up and put me in the backseat of that other car. It was amazing going through this process. And I'll tell you what, the doctors told me, you'll never walk again. And I don't know about you, but I'm just ornery enough. It's like, really? You're going to tell me that? So I started to walk again with a walker. And then I lost the crutches. And then they told me, you know, you're never going to walk without a limp. You know that, right? And so of course that made me a little bit ornerier, and I was like, watch me. I'll show you how to walk. Today you would never know that that was a part of my life. And yet, now it's 24 years later, I still live with a level of pain. Every day. Honestly, it's one reason we moved to Arizona. Because when you live in cold and you have metal, it hurts. And it hurts bad. And it doesn't matter how many layers of clothes you have on, it doesn't stop hurting. And so as I kept moving, I'm so grateful I got to move to such a wonderful, warm place. But here's the thing I learned. I didn't need a wheelchair to be paralyzed. Remember how the morning session I talked about after you stop, drop, and roll, you got to get up? That's exactly what you have to keep doing. You got to get up and walk. Even after being paralyzed, I had to get up out of that chair. It was my choice to let go of the walker. It was my choice to let go of the crutches because those were a whole lot easier. Gave me an excuse. But now, how many times we find ourselves paralyzed because of our life? And the truth is, the paralysis that we experience now is often due to the gap that we find ourselves living in. We're so stuck, we don't see how we can be able to move forward. But I'll tell you what, here's how. Remembering we are infinite beings. God created you for a reason. You are an infinite being, and if you weren't, there's no point to this life. There's no point to looking forward to heaven. Why? It's over when it's over. You're in the ground, you're done, right? If we're not infinite beings, there is no hope for what is to come. And yet being paralyzed can take away so much. It can control so much of your life. So want to know what you're paralyzed by? What do you think about the most? What do you talk about the most? What do you worry about the most? You answer those 3 questions, and I can tell you what paralyzes you. I can tell you what controls your life. You see, when you're being controlled by something, you have forgotten that you're here for a reason. I want you to start seeing everything, from a broken fingernail, to a job loss, to a geographical move, to frustrations with relationships, to see it all as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to find your hope in a God who meant the promises He gave us. Every last bit of it. That's what this is about. If it's not, what is it for? Really, what's the point if it's not for something bigger and better? But that constant talk that goes on in our head, right, ladies? It goes on and on. Well, that was bad. Well, this has been a crummy day. Right? It goes constantly. That inner speech, I want everybody to like me. I don't want anyone to talk badly about me. I don't want anyone to hurt me. I don't want anything to happen that I don't like. I don't want. And how often that inner chatter is the negative stuff in our life. And you've forgotten that you're infinite. There's a reason that they say, Mama, how the household feels is based on what Mom feels. Can we start taking that serious and doing something about it? We have more power than we realize as women. And as Christian women, it should mean something different. It should mean that our lives look so different and reflect the faith that we have in a God who knows us by name. You were designed to live through something rather than attain something. And the thing you were meant to live through is designed to change us. Right? There's got to be a point to this life. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. The point wasn't the search, but the transformation the searches create. That's what I want to be. I want to be a transformed person because of what God's done in my life, in my imperfect efforts to move forward and to get out of the gap. Once you know how to live a better story, to choose not to live makes you want to just die. If you're not going to live a story, a better story, then why live? People have the idea that living a better story means that they have to change everything and be perfect. But the truth is, most of us just don't have the courage to live a better story because we're so comfortable with where we're at. We know how to be miserable. Isn't that sad? Have you ever noticed some of the most angry, bitter, resentful people go to church every Sunday? Have you ever noticed that? And please don't hear that as pointing fingers and judging her. It's not. I have great empathy because there must have been a lot that's gone on in their life. But I want to have a faith that's actually made a difference. And you can see it by who I am and what I reflect. And you can feel it when you interact with me. You see, God is calling each one of us by name to a better way of living. God's constantly whispering to us. Again, I wish for the text message, but it's usually a whisper. I want more for you. Don't say that. Don't do that. Move forward. Let go. I see you. Have you ever had those moments? See, when we stop expecting God to end all of our troubles, you will be surprised at how much hope you feel. But if you're waiting for God to fix things in order for you to have hope again, to trust again, you're going to be very disappointed. And my fear for you is you're going to become very bitter and resentful. Don't let anything that happens in your life be important enough that you're willing to close off your heart, to stop trusting, that your heart becomes closed because you are blocked off to all the hurt so nothing else can come in anymore. If you are saying to yourself, oh, Kristi, you are too late. I have so closed off my heart. I am done with this. I don't know where you're at. But I want you to know it's not too late. And you're not alone. It may be difficult and it's not what you wanted. But it is worth fighting through the pain to keep your heart open. Because on the other side of it, doesn't work. I know because I did it. You would think after all that I've gone through, the fire, the car accident, everything else, you would think I would have had this all figured out. I don't. I didn't. Several years ago, I went through a very dark place, and I was so angry at God. So angry to the point that I said, forget it. I remember the day I picked up my Bible, and I literally went and put it on a shelf and said, I am done. And I walked away. I stopped going to church. I stopped listening to the radio. I stopped reading my Bible. I definitely had a forget you attitude. After all that I've been through, after all that I've done, after how hard I've lived my life to be this good person, and this is the stuff that you keep bringing into my life, well, fine. I don't need you. I wish I could accurately describe to you what it is like to go to such a dark place. It is so hopeless. It is so dark. It is so lonely. It is so painful. I remember one time very specifically, and it was funny, it was in the bathroom. I was looking in the mirror doing my hair, and God said to me, please don't go there. Please don't do this. You're not going to be happy with the results. And I couldn't stop myself. I was so angry, I didn't care. And I remember saying back to God, watch me. I know that day I grieved God. And I'm embarrassed to admit that that's what I did. But it's true. And it's honest. And it's real. And I think there's many of you that have had moments where you said the same thing. Of course, you don't say it out loud. And you don't say it to anyone else. I just let it come out in my behavior. I was really good at making sarcastic comments. When someone would bring up faith or God or hope or prayer or anything, boy, I had a good jab back. Felt good. But I'll tell you what, coming back to the Lord has meant everything. I love going to church. I love worshiping. I love standing before you and speaking from my heart, being real and transparent with you, because I don't know any other way. This isn't easy. And today might be a high, and yes, we can do it. And next weekend might be a low. But I'll tell you what, it's a battle worth fighting. It's a battle worth moving forward on because you deserve it. Walking away isn't the answer. It just brings more pain, more heartache, and lots more problems. And I'll tell you what, the only way I made it back, I didn't think I could come back. One, because of that pride. I walked away, I said I didn't need you, and so I want to keep with that theme. I hit a place that I realized the only person I was hurting is me. And I realized I was hurting my kids. And it wasn't anything major that I did. It was just one small little step that I kept making. Opening up just a little bit, opening up just a little bit, and allowing God back into my life, because I believe God owed me. And I stopped trusting. I wish I could say I have this all figured out, because I could just give you the answers. And I could give you this rule book to follow. Wouldn't that be nice? But there's no such thing. But here's the thing I've learned. It is about letting go. It's about moving forward and letting go and letting go. Okay, if I could sing again, I would sing to you the very popular song right now, Frozen, right? Let it go, let it go. Don't want you to lose your lunch. So, you know the song I'm talking about, right? Here it is, ladies. Let go by forgiving yourself. Let go by stop living in the guilt of the past failures. Believe you are way more than the mistakes you have made. Let go of the past hurts. Letting go of what people say, what they think of you. Letting go of being so busy you don't take time to listen. Let go of living in the comfort zone. I started today by asking you about the gap. As you know, I wasn't talking about the clothing store. But a great way to clothe ourselves is with Ephesians 6:10-18, the armor of God. I know many of you know it very well. But if you're going to arm yourself with anything, arm yourself with that. Put that on. How do you restore your hope? You have some space on the bottom of your handout if you want to write, and I'll try and talk slow. Here's how you start restoring your hope. By letting go. By getting up and walking forward one step at a time. You restore your hope by putting on the armor of God. You restore your hope by living in a place of peace and joy. You restore your hope by living in a place of gratitude. You restore your hope by having enthusiasm for life, enjoying your life. Making the shift from all that is wrong in your life to all that is good in your life. Restoring your hope is seeing life's events as blessings in disguise. Restoring hope by focusing on victory to victory, not battle to battle. It's trusting that He brought us this far, He won't leave us, because He meant what He promised. Restoring our hope is instead of a breakdown, it's a breakthrough, because you're going to decide. Restoring your hope is looking for what is good. Look to the progress that has been made. Restoring our hope is removing all of our walls and opening our heart. Restoring our hope is anticipating what is to come. Heaven is here on earth, but there is so much more to come, and holding on to that place. It's managing our disappointments. It's paying attention to whose voice you're listening to. It's stop playing small. It's being present right here, right now. Not down the road, not in the past, but right here, right now. It's moving out of the place of fear to a place of love and trust. God really does use all of our experiences, big and small, to redeem our story. But here's the key, ladies. We have to let Him. We have to let Him do that work in our life. It's not always easy, but I'll tell you what, if you struggle with that, you don't have to do it alone. Find someone to talk to. Get help. Do what you have to do to get out of that place, because you are the one that pays the price. I put in your notebooks today a poem from Marianne Williamson, and I love this poem. And I hope you keep it in a place that you will read it again. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I? To be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates us. I love that. Let's make manifest the glory of God. The piece of paper that I gave you earlier today that you guys journaled on, I'd love for you to pull it out. Because now I would love for you just to take a minute. That gap that you journaled about, or bullet pointed about, now I want you to take that exact same event, and I want you to write about what a blessing it has been. What has it done for you? What has it taught you? What have you learned to let go of because of that event in your life? Will you just write real quick, what are some blessings that have come through the gap and through the pain that you've experienced? have time to write right now, do it later. When you're facing a hard experience, one of the best things that we can do, it's easy for us to journal about what's hurting us and what we don't like. But it changes it when you have to write about how it's blessed us and how it's helped us. At your table at lunch, you had a rock sitting in front of you. And I hope you grabbed it and put it in your purse, because it was meant for you to take with you. And I would love for you to hold on to it and put it somewhere, in your purse, in your car, in your house, wherever it might be, that you can be reminded. Reminded of this day. Reminded of this opportunity that you have to let go, to trust in the Lord, and to find your hope in Him. Because that's where it belongs. Doesn't belong anywhere else. And so I love little visual reminders of that. And again, not beating yourself up that you're in a difficult spot and you're not feeling it, but to look because you know how to get your way back. Because He is faithful and He meant His promises. Because remember, the gap is inevitable. The length of stay is the part that you get the choice. As we leave here today, my prayer for you is that as you go forward, that you will go forward in joy and peace, trusting in Him, because it is in Him that our hope rests. We're going to go into another time of our small groups, and you have questions in your notebook. We're all going to stay in this room for this next half, and I pray that as you share, as you move forward from here, that the light bulbs will continue to go on, that healing will take place, because it's time. You deserve it. And we all need it. Is there any other announcements that you needed to make? Okay. So right now, if you guys would all get up and go to your different groups in here, and then we're going to come back here, and we'll call you back when it's time to come back.